Hello and welcome, Scottwmills, live from Florida.
Oh, I know. I love it. Florida and Germany together at last.
Yes, so I'm so happy and grateful to have you on the podcast today, and we will have a soul talk about moving from fear to resourcefulness using the tools of the brain. I love it. And yes, thank you so much for taking your time. And yeah, I was wondering how I introduce you, Scott Mills. And we all say or call you Dr. Scott. And do you know, you have a big, big fan. It's my inner child, Annie. She always said, Dr. Scotty, if you post something or if you have a live video, it's so amazing. So I was wondering how to introduce you, because I found you so unique, you're so amazing, incredible, you're so loving person, so much love, and you're so unique. So I went to your webpage. I put all the links of your webpage and all the things you want on the show, show notes. And I found this incredible sentence, and I would like to share it. Scott Mills is a cross between Yoda. Yoda is the Star Wars character, this alien with the long ear, and Bill Nye. And for all the Germans, Bill Nye is the science guy from the USA, and he's a person, or he's a guy who explain and talk about science in a very funny way. And I really must say, Scott, you're such a funny person. I have so much fun with you. And yeah, as you also said, Dr. Scott is a mentor like no others. And that's really true. And I met Dr. Scott at Mind Valley, and I booked this incredible money EQ quest, and it's an amazing, the tribe is amazing, everything is amazing. You and Ken Honda, you're such incredible mentors, and I would like to share something about Scott, because he's the creator of the human evolution system. That sounds amazing. It's a gentle approach to creating more resilience, abundance, and joy in the lives of people. Wow. His work blends Eastern and Western approaches to train your brain to create more possibilities. You can find him teaching on Mind Valley, as well working with private clients around the world. Hello, welcome again.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. It's funny. There's a lot, now I've got a lot of pressure. No, I don't. No, it's just, I know we've been talking for a bit even before the podcast, and I warmed up to you right away and just connected my heart to your heart. And I'm so excited in part. And for folks who don't know this about me, my family has very German roots. So my grandmother came over from Germany right after World War II. And so much of the work I do is, I believe, inspired by some of the struggles she had. It was such a strange time. She was what do you call it? Not abandoned, but disowned by her family for marrying an American. And she came to this country, to the US, with no family, no connection, and just a little bit of English. She had been a social worker in Germany during the war, was trying to help kids get milk. And so to me, like, I have such a sweet spot in my heart for Germany. And I was telling you, my intention was to come in July. My mom and I were going to travel over together. And clearly the travel, things have been changed now. So this is really extra special for me to get to be in Germany with you, even if it's via web. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's crazy. So yes, of course, we are in the middle of the Corona-Crisis, and as you as a mentor and as me as a channel, so we have to deal a lot of with the fear of our clients. So what is the experience do you have with your clients?
Yeah, it's funny. I was telling you earlier, I feel like I do trips around the world every single day. So I may start in London and then move to Istanbul and Spain and Singapore, lots of US. And one of the things I've been talking to people in every one of these countries about is, how are things going in the middle of this coronavirus? What do you need? How can I be in service? Because so much has gone on internally. So I am seeing lots of fear, lots of anxiety, lots of overwhelm, lots of confusion. And these are all really normal things. So I just want to say to all of us, the very first thing is, if you get nothing else out of this podcast, hopefully you will get the sense of, please be gentle with yourself.
Yes.
This is a really different time for all of us. We've never been through a time like this. And as we talk about how the brain processes this, we'll realize why this is so difficult for us. And the other thing is, because I know that a lot of people are going to be listening, are going to be folks like us who consider ourselves healers or coaches, or some, where we're seeing clients. The very first thing I've had to acknowledge in this work is that we have our own fear. And I teach people, for everybody who calls yourself a coach, a healer, an acupuncturist, a doctor, whatever way that you do that work. And it doesn't have to be official. You could be a mother, you could be a grandmother, a grandfather. We're all healing and holding space for each other. We're first human. So the very first thing we all have to do is just acknowledge our humanity, be gentle with ourselves, and recognize this is a crazy time. But we'll get through it together much better than we'll get through it apart.
Yes. So this is what I also get from my clients. And this is also what what I do with myself. So also how to deal with fear. So so it's okay to have fear. I'm afraid. Yes, I am afraid. It's okay. I think this is a very, very first and very good step to say, yes, I am afraid. And sometimes you can say, yes, I'm afraid, yes, to make it a little bit crazy, because everything is crazy at the moment. And if you, so this is my experience. If I'm afraid and I said, oh, I'm so afraid, and then, I'm not in my energy anymore. But if I said, yes, I'm afraid, and it's my right to be afraid. Everyone is afraid, and it's okay. I'm open-minded, and then I'm in my energy again, and the universe can help me with new possibilities I can use for me.
Absolutely. And I want to tease people here. So in English, we say, I am afraid. And I actually encourage people not to use those particular words. I think that Spanish and French do a better job with this particular phrase. So they would say, like, I have fear. I have sadness. I have grief. And part of why I like that is and I love that you bring this energy conversation in right away. My energy is not fear. My energy is not anger. My energy is not sadness. And there's nothing wrong with having sadness. There's nothing wrong with having fear. So there's a couple things I want to point out to folks. The first is, if you can just notice I have something, you can imagine holding it in your hand. So if I have some fear in my hand, instead of in my whole body, and I am the fear, I can actually start to have a conversation with it. And fear is a really useful thing, right? Fear is a biological piece of us that tells us, yikes, there's something to pay attention to. So nothing wrong with having some fear. Where we get in trouble is when we be fear, when we become, all of us becomes the fear. So the first thing I just encourage everybody to play with is the language you use around this, so that you can recognize, I don't have to inhabit or become fear. I can just hold a little bit in my hand, and then it's a natural response. The other thing I want to say, just as we get through, because I'm realizing I'm using a language that's not helpful for folks. Everything is not crazy. So what I've noticed in the world, you asked me what I notice with clients. Yes. I've noticed two things going on. One is a slow and steady rumble. It's sort of like a low, like a grumble on the planet with people I've talked to everywhere. And that's this low end fear, anxiety, overwhelm. And so for most of us who have any kind of safety issue, if we talk about chakra systems or developmental psych, they actually describe the same thing, which I find fascinating. That very root thing we have to take care of is, are we safe? So we've had a lot of, am I safe? Am I going to survive? Am I enough? Is the world enough? But the other thing, so when we look at this, the other thing that's been so fascinating to me is everything is not crazy. We have this rumble of crazy confusion. But what I've also noticed is this beautiful, and I've been kind of expressing it like it's almost like a rainbow over top of us, which is this gorgeous feeling of hope, of resilience, of compassion, of generosity. I was sharing with you that I came back to Florida largely because my family had some health issues recently, and I was concerned because my parents are older, and I wanted to make sure they were okay. So, I came back for that, and then realized, like, wow, thank goodness I'm back with people, because it would have been very easy to just be isolated on my own. But what I've watched inside of that are things like my mother's group of older women making masks when there are no masks. On Friday, one of the restaurants that they go to quite often did meals for 800 people. And they're doing that for every Friday from here on out. So I see all of these examples of the best of humanity. So I like to hold these two in tension, noticing that there is fear, but there's also something we can reach for. And I like, we just reach for it. It will pull us up. We have friends and family. And for those of us, even if we're isolated, part of what I've watched is there's these extraordinary gifts of Zoom communities, of people coming together from around the world to do everything from pray, meditate, do concerts, celebrate music. My dear friends, the band The Kin, Isaac and Torald Corin, have been doing concerts every night at 5 o'clock Pacific time, or actually Eastern time. Just 20 minutes where they're offering their music. And these are people who've traveled the world. So I see all of this possibility. And that's, to me, one of the most important things that we can do as we're holding this frame, is to realize that we have not devolved into fear. We have another possibility. And so we have fear for a minute. And this is the last thing I want to say here, and I know I'm rattling on a bunch, but it's so exciting for me to get to share this work. I was able to work with a really profound Aikido master many years ago named Wendy Palmer. She's a gorgeous book. His name is escaping me. Hopefully I'll remember it in a minute. And Wendy said, we're all going to fall into fear. We're all going to fall out of balance. We're going to fall into anger. We're going to fall into sadness. We're going to fall into uncertainty. And she said that the mark of a master is not that we don't fall out of balance. It's that we can return to center quickly.
Yes.
So that's piece of, noticing, okay, yeah, I have some fear. And so I'll tell people, do whatever you need to self-soothe, and we'll teach you a few things today. But if you need to have some cookies, or you need to watch, an hour of Netflix or 2 hours, whatever, let yourself find the ways to self-soothe.
Yeah.
So that you can find your center again, because your center is always going to exist. This resilient, soulful, powerful part of you. And I promise everybody who's listening to this podcast, everyone I've ever met is braver than they think.
Yes.
I tell people, if you woke up this morning and you faced your life, you are braver than some people. Because life can be hard. There can be lots of things that we need to encounter, and to wake up and even just know there's a coronavirus and be able to move through your day. I want folks to know that if you're able to do that, you're braver than you think. You have more resources than you think. And in the Buddhist frame, they say we have Buddha nature. We have this depth of us that runs through us. Other spiritual traditions call this soul, our core, our connection to source. Whatever it is, we have this part of ourselves that's resourceful, but that's the place we come back to. And that's the truth of us.
Yes. So what I also like is, so very simple things. So just a thought which makes you happy, just a smile, just, just to be thankful. And I love these small steps to do. And it's, it's not so huge, this this afraidness is a German word. Is it an English word?
Yes, yeah.
So I love it because this also showed me that I can step, if I have fear, out of fear. I can step out of in a second, and I love that. So this is also what gives me the permission to say I can decide, and I love that as well.
Yeah,
And, you know, and I have to tell you, it was so funny because in the beginning, as the Corona crisis started, a lot of clients asked me, Annett, I feel so helpless. What can I do? And I said, okay, I will channel what we can do. And the universe told us, send love into the world. I said, how easy is that? So I had the idea every day at 12 o'clock to take 1 minute and send love to the world.
Mm.
And you send healing to the world. I love that. It's so simple.
Well, and you are so inspiring. You know, I'm sure that your listeners have heard this story, but we were talking about how you found this journey for yourself. And you said, I asked myself a simple question, which is, am I happy? And
Yes.
simple question you started pulling at, and it led you down a whole different path.
Yeah.
I've been teaching people lately to hold these simple questions because we can hold a simple question. It's hard to ask the question, how will I make it through Corona? You know, that's a big question. We don't know. There's too many unknown variables. So, you know, if people ask me, what am I doing next week? I'm like, I don't know. You know, next month, next year, I'm like, the world is changing. We're in a time of shift. So, you know, I'm just being with the present moment. But I've been asking myself two questions consistently every single day. The first is, how can I be of service?
Yes.
And I think that's exactly where you were going. And part of why I like this question, you know, I teach something I call the gateways to resilience, which are the ways we can get back to that inner core. And one of the simplest gateways is to be in service. Because as soon as I expand beyond myself, you know, which, because it's so easy to go into our little tiny world, you know, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But if we stay there, we get stuck, you know, it can be really lonely and exhausting. But if we say, okay, so how can I be of service? My world opens up, and this container that was once very small, like a soda bottle getting shaken up, now becomes really big, and I can say, oh, you know, those people don't have food, and I can make sandwiches. You know, I read this morning of a man who's been giving out coffee to the first responders in New York, just out of his window. You know, he's just giving out hundreds of cups of coffee, and, you know, just these beautiful small expressions. How can I be of service? And he's moved himself off of himself and into, how can I support these other people? The other question I've been asking, and I really like these coupled, so I'd love for folks to, you know, you don't have to use my question, but you can try them on, is how can I live joyfully and abundantly? So, and they need to go together. Some version of how can I fill myself up? Because how can I be of service? If we're not careful, we can become martyrs and exhaust ourselves till there's nothing left. And we're no good for anyone then, because then people just have to pick us up and carry us. But if we're constantly refilling, we can constantly be giving. So, and I know people just want to give, give, give. I'm like, yeah, but if you pass out on the side of the road and now 3 people have to carry you because you are giving, you know, you've actually taken more than you've given. So take a time to say, how can I be joyful and abundant? And part of what I love, and, you know, we were playing with this when we were chatting earlier, so much of how can I be abundant has been like coded as how much stuff can I have? And when the stores are closed, you know, and you can only go to the grocery store, you have to rethink, how can I be abundant and how can I be joyful? So I love this. Like, you can look in your house, and you asked me for exercises. I want to share one thing that I do that I created the other day, and we can do deeper exercises. You can also find tons of exercises on my website. I know you're going to share this later, but if you go to scottwmills.com/together we love, there's actually a 90-minute fear to resilience workshop I did full of exercises. I send more stuff out to people. But one of the things I do is something that I started before this. And part of what I think is so useful is the more we practice before we get into crisis, the more tools, the easier it is to live in crisis, in chaos. So I do something called a wonder walk. So, and talk about like, how can you live joyfully and abundantly? A wonder walk, because wonder is another one of these gateways to resilience. Like, it's that place of awe. You know, when you look up at the night sky and you go, oh my gosh, we're one tiny planet circling one of those stars, right? And we see millions of stars. You know, we know they go forever. So a wonder walk, I do this funny little thing, and I set a timer for 15 minutes.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter where I go. Like this, I've been doing with my dog lately in my family's neighborhood. And I just look for things that are beautiful, things that inspire me. And because I know it's easy to fall into our thoughts, it's easy to forget to do this. I've actually decided that this is a good time for the cell phone. So I pull out my cell phone and I take pictures of the things that amaze me.
Oh.
So it may be a gorgeous flower, it may be a hummingbird, it may be a sculpture. Yesterday, for some reason, I did this walk, and we're in this place with lots of wildlife, and there's a place of not being attached as you do this, just to allow life to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because for a bit I was like, oh, I want some wildlife, and it was very still. There was no wildlife. I think I saw one bee, but he was moving too fast, and a little gecko. But what I started to notice was all of these different colored doors, these doorways that were teal and red and purple and yellow. And I just started to be in the presence of that. Whether there was a message, I don't know. But I started to think, wow, I'm amazed at all these possibilities that open up. And I just started to sink into, well, what's behind each of those doors?
Yes.
Every one is a different vignette of life, a different possibility for connection, a different group of people who have so much to give. It was funny because that was not a thought I went out looking for.
Yeah.
But what happens is when you do these wonder walks, and you set 12 minutes, 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. I actually created these because I'm terrible at sitting meditation. And I was trying to find ways to like fully engage. So what happens is you become fully present to the moment and you let life show up. And part of what I'm finding so fascinating in the midst of the coronavirus is a small part of the world. It's affecting a lot of us. It's affecting the world, but it's inviting us to notice some things.
Yes, of course. You have
The
to
big
learn.
one, the big one I keep noticing is these lines in the sand that we draw, and we go, yours and mine, which is what I call survival self, that marks my rock and your rock and says, this is my space, I'm safe. The wind has just blown all of those dividers away. Yeah. And we recognize that we are not Germany and England and the US and Sweden. We are one humanity sharing a planet, which, many of us have been feeling for a long time. But this kind of experience connects us in a way that very few things can remind us this deeply. And it's been interesting to me. I don't know how many people have had this experience, but I've been watching what the planet has been doing while we've been resting.
Yeah,
and it's falling apart. It's healing itself. It's recovering. The skies are becoming blue. And what's been so interesting to me is to notice what is really our place on this planet. Because we're not doing so much good for it right now. If when we come into our homes, the planet actually starts to get clean, the animals come back out, it's just an extraordinary time to be invited into our relationship with each other in the world. And that's the kind of thing like a 10-minute, 12-minute wonder walk can start to pull at these questions. And you might ask, not just how am I in service, but what can I be in wonder of? How am I connected to every single person on the planet? Those are places where you ask a simple question. They're kind of koans in the Buddhist sense. They open the universe up for the possibility of enlightenment, which just means coming to know ourselves, by the way. It's not some out there experience. Enlightenment was coming to know that part of ourselves that's resourceful, that's resilient, that's connected to the whole. Yes.
So I start every morning asking, I have a morning ritual. I'm asking me some questions. How will I feel today? Or how I'm feeling today? And for what I'm thankful for, and how do I want to become today? So all these questions, to have this, I call it mindset stretching. I do it every day. So if I have the morning routine and during the day, I always approve. I really do it. Do I really? Yeah. Oh no. Oh, I'm out of my way. I have to go back to my way, or find a new thing. And I really must say, and this is also what I channeled, is that the universe is telling us, you are one earth. You are not Germans, French, Americans, or whatever. So you're one group. You're all together, and you have to learn to see it and to act like that. And this is why we all have this Corona crisis, that we don't can run away and say, oh, this is not mine, this is yours, this is yours. So that we can say, oh, I'm also in, let's do it together.
One of my friends said that this is sort of like the planet said, go to your room and think about how you've been behaving.
Yes.
And it's like we're children, and we act like children. You know, if you look at kids who sometimes fight over toys, but can get along if they find, you know, some common ground and decide like, oh, let's share these toys. Let's be in this together. I want to tease out one thing you said, and I just love so much of what you're saying. I feel like we could do a 10-hour podcast and I would just go away so energized and excited.
Maybe we do another one another day.
Oh, let's do it. I'm all for that. Maybe we can even do something that we can invite people to ask questions on live.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun. But one of the things you said is mindset, and words are important to me, very important, because they shape our reality. So I've teased people about this word mindset for years. Mindset really is a great term when we want to live in our heads. And our world has lived so much in our heads. So I want to make sure we're connecting heart set,
Yes,
body set, soul set,
yes,
which I know is just who you are. Like that's, so when you say this word, it is like connecting head and heart, and body and spirit. So for everybody who's thinking about like, what's my mindset? Sometimes it's, you know, mindset is usually about the way we look at things, the way we look at the world, the way we perceive, the questions we ask, which we've been talking a lot about. And what I love is also dropping down, and this is exactly what you described. It was so beautiful. Dropping down into your heart and your body and saying, okay, well, you know, my choice today, and that was, you know, such a beautiful thing you said, is like, we get to be in choice. My choice today is to be in happiness.
yeah,
Am I choosing happiness in this moment? I'm sure you've heard this story from Viktor Frankl, who's, you know, an amazing author. So Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps in Germany, and he said that the one choice we have that no one can take away from us, nothing can take away from us, is our choice of how we will relate to the world. And so he, in the middle of the worst of circumstances, far more isolating than what any of us are going through, with oppression coming, he, on scraps of paper, said, you know, I'm going to choose to survive. I'm
yes,
going to choose to make meaning, you know, I'm going to choose to make meaning with my life.
yeah,
And on little scraps of paper, he wrote part of a book that became this whole psychological framework that called logotherapy, meaning therapy, that so many of us have been influenced by. And I love thinking about him, particularly, he's German, you know, such a powerful influence. So on this call, to evoke him, to bring his spirit up is great. And also to notice, because it's so connected to what you do, this, what is your soul's purpose? What is your meaning? To use this time, if you don't know the answer to that question, and, you know, it doesn't have to be something big. You know, sometimes people think, you know, oh, my meaning is to end world hunger. My meaning is to end homelessness. I heard someone say this recently, which is a beautiful thought. So, and it's also often a way to stay in the impossible, so you don't have to do anything. So your meaning could be, my meaning is to bring more joy today to the people I encounter. My meaning is to bring more happiness. You know, Annett, you do such a beautiful job in bringing more spirit, more soul, more purpose to every person you meet. It doesn't have to be 1 million people. You know, it doesn't have to be 1,000 people. It could be one person,
yeah.
one small group of people. So I just love that we can ask the question, what are we here for in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are beautiful, but just bring Viktor Frankl's energy into our conversation today.
Yes. So maybe, I guess we have to come to the end. So
Oh,
maybe
we could stay longer, but I have another call I have to be on. I would be here all day with you. I really would. You are such a delight, and just even your energy. Like I just feel so warm and loved by you, and it beams out. And I know everyone who's listening to you on your podcasts feels that every week. It's like, wow, she's holding space for me, for my heart.
I really do. I really do.
Yeah. So
Everything
thank
is
you for
coming
the
from
work you
the
do.
heart. Yeah. So maybe we can have these questions at the end that everybody can ask themselves.
So the question, the ones that I like,
Yeah.
and there's so many. So just pick a question that resonates with you. We were talking about mind, body, heart, set. You can choose one of these or you can make your own. The ones I like are, how can I be in service?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be joyful and abundant? And what is my purpose? Which really is connected to how can I be in service?
Yeah.
And you may find the question different for you. How can I be happy? How can I feel whole? The only question I would avoid, there's some questions that are about stuff and about things that we can't control. So how can I be, how can I make millions of dollars in the middle of the coronavirus? Probably not going to bring you much joy. You might be able to answer it. But just really go for the heart question, the thing inside you that rings here, that the how can I make millions of dollars? How can I survive? Like, how can I figure it out? Those questions will get your head thinking, but I think right now the heart is really what we want to. So how can I be in service? How can I be most joyful? How can I be most loving? Really the B questions are going to be the place where we find the most in the midst of chaos.
Yeah, and you can ask these questions every day, every moment. So take your chance. Yes, Scott, Dr. Scotty. It was amazing. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, maybe we have another episode together. I would love to.
I will just make sure I have nothing at the other side, because then I can talk to you like longer, because this was just the beginning of so many things we could talk about. So let's make sure to do that. And I just want to appreciate you so much for all the work you're doing in the world and bringing this beautiful perspective and heart to so many people. So thank you, Annett. Really appreciate
Thank you, Scotty. Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, I wish you a lovely day. So you start your day. So I'm at the end. No, not really. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon now. So you start your day, and I wish you a lovely day. A lot of joy and yeah, be wealthy, healthy, and everything you wish. You're a lovely person, and I'm so happy that you're on Earth as well at the moment. And we are together here, and all people, we are together here in the moment to make this world to a better place. And yeah, let's do it together. A lot of love to you, Scott. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.